David Hertel in for Aaron and Natasha. Well, yesterday we had Colin Standish, the leader of the Canadian Party of Quebec, on. But I found that it's also very interesting to speak with the candidates. And we've had several candidates. We had candidates from Bloc Montréal, candidates from the Liberal Party of Quebec, of course, and we are joined today by one of these candidates that were announced yesterday by Colin Standish. He is Jean Marier. He's a candidate for the Canadian Party of Quebec in the Nelligan riding in the West Island. Thanks for joining us, Jean.
Thank you for having me, David.
So, Jean, I think the first line in your CV when you're coming on CJD 800 should be the fact that you are the brother of Shome's Pete Marier.
It's something I've been stopped with numerous times on the street about.
So Pete came in the studio earlier saying, well, you have to put my brother on. I said, he's going to be on.
I don't like pulling any strings here.
No problem. There was no strings.
On my own merit.
I know. You're here absolutely on your own merit. I just found it was a very interesting coincidence that you were both brothers. So, Jean, let's start with who you are. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, my family's been here for over 400 years, David, and it's amazing that I won the genetic lottery when my dad years ago decided to marry an Irish girl from Ottawa. And I've been asking myself for years, how does that make me any less of a Québécois than my cousins who didn't have that good fortune? And I thought, what an antiquated 19th century way to look at the world. And with Bill 21 and Bill 96, I'm not a political man, but I thought I would give it a try because I was just so perplexed and upset at what our premier thought of by bringing up these ludicrous laws. So a real neophyte when it comes to politics, but wanting to get involved because I find the subject is that important.
I'll get back to 96 and 21 in a moment, but I still want to go back to your background. So you have a background in banking, is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I worked for years in finance as a stockbroker, as a what's known as a wholesaler in Montreal, all across the Maritimes, all through this beautiful province, and Ontario as well. So vice presidential roles at Bank of Montreal and Manuvie.
So an impressive CV, and you live in Pointe Claire.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. A very proud Pointe Clairidian, I guess we call it.
So back to politics. So as you said, this is your first foray into active politics. So I understand your opposition to 96 and 21, but what I find interesting is you're a Francophone. Right. And you feel that 96 and 21 are too extreme, but why now? I mean, there's been, I'm sure it's not the first time a guy of your stature might have been approached for politics or might be interested in politics. So why now? Why this is the bridge too far that says, no, I have to get involved?
Well, David, I thought there was peace in the valley. Bill 101, 186, a lot of my English-speaking friends, I went to English high school, French elementary school. That's how we rolled in the Marier house, a kind of bilingual Canadian approach to things. And I just didn't like this idea of putting people into boxes simply by some sort of heritage we had, from immigrants that came over 8 or 9 generations ago. And when I heard terms like historic Anglos by Simon Jolin Barrette, I just can't believe this is going on in 2022. For crying out loud, we're all humans. We all live in harmony. And, I love the fact that I'll be representing Nelligan one day because it's kind of 1/3 Francophone, 1/3 Allophone, and 1/3 Franco. You've got the three, big language groups that we seem to always putting people in boxes in, and I'm saying, geez, everyone gets along harmoniously. I've never spoken a word of English at Fairview. I go there in French, and I love that my English friends, their kids are bilingual. It's kind of a wonderful thing. So I'm saying to myself, why are we not letting a veiled woman teach our kids in a classroom, or a great person with a cape, being a police officer? I'm just not seeing this, David. And I mean this sincerely. I just don't see this.
Speaking with Canadian Party of Quebec candidate in Nelligan, Jean Marier. So Jean, why, with your opposition, very valid and very well explained opposition to 96 and 21, why not go and voice this opposition within the Liberal Party?
Well, because Mrs. Anglade and her gang had a choice. She chose to work on the writing of Bill 96 instead of out of hand rejecting it. It's wrong. Pierre Trudeau years ago was a strong federalist, and he won 90% of the seats in Quebec during a feverish time for separation. Quebec wants leadership, and this game that the Liberals are playing, saying one thing in Bay-Durfee and another in Baie-Comeau, it's just not cutting it. And we're seeing it in the poll numbers. We're running solidly second now in a whole bunch of ridings because people are saying enough is enough. Let's stand up on principle. Let's not play this vulgar game of politics. Let's just do the right thing. And that's why I'm here.
So what do you say? Of course, you've heard it. I've had the discussion with Colin Standish. What are you saying to people that all this is doing is just dividing the vote? There is a lot of opposition to 96 and 21 on both sides, on the Francophone side and the Anglophone side. But this ultimately can only help the CAQ because right now, yes, the polling shows that you are second, but in certain ridings, the split of the vote is hurting the Liberals, but also helping the CAQ. What's your response to that?
Well, listen, I'm not a political analyst or anything. What I do know is that our premier seems to be in a pretty enviable position right now. I'm not sure that dropping a few seats in the west side of Montreal really creates that big a deal. But again, on principle, David, I think people should be saying, I've got one vote, and what party do I give that vote to? And when I look at that equation, that calculus, I'm saying I want a party that is immovable on this. Who in the words of Clifford, Lincoln said, yes, rights are rights are rights. And simply when I look into my kid's eyes now, I say, Dad is running for this party and I'm doing the right thing. Will I win the election? No idea. It's a moral stand. It's not a political stand. And I think a lot of people on election night on October 3rd are going to do that same calculus in their head and say, what is the right thing to do? And it's to vote for a party without any ambiguity. We will not be like Liberals. We will say the same thing in Kirkland as we do in Kamouraska. That's how easy this is.
Jean-Marie, I will let you go on this final question. A lot of people find that language and the rights issue is their number one issue and the issue they're going to vote on for the October 3rd vote. But at the same time, a lot of your target constituents, not only in Nelligan, but all over Quebec, will be talking also about inflation, the economy. We'll be talking about health care. What are you going to say to those people that say, look, yes, language, Bill 21, important, but I also want a strong voice on other very important issues?
And that's a wonderful, wonderful question. What I would tell those people, again, very simply, let's go with any number. And, I hate playing this game of what if, but let's say we get 10 seats and either the CAQ or the Liberal need votes. Well, we'll vote with the government on good issues and we'll vote against the government on other issues. What we will not ever change an iota of our fiber with, though, is the fact that if there's anything to do with rights, linguistic, cultural, anything to do with communities, we will be against anything that limits rights. But as far as governing and whether we should bring something up from 7 to 8% or 7.2%, we'll listen to what's going on in the National Assembly, and we will vote in good conscience for the right thing. That's how simple it is.
All right. We're going to have to leave it at that. Thank you very much for spending some time with us this afternoon.
And thanks, and do say hi to my brother when you see him again.
I absolutely will. Thank you. Jean, all the best to you. Jean Marier, candidate for the Canadian Party of Quebec in the West Island riding of Nelligan.